Welcome to SMED 5342.
So as we get started, you may be wondering what this class is all about and how this course affects your major and what you want to do in your career path. For some of you, I know you look at these classes and just think, it's another class on my degree plan. I hope you look at this class and you take more out of it. To better understand this, it might be helpful to start with what this class is about. Sport and exercise psychology is the scientific study of people and their behaviors in sport and exercise activities, and the practical application of that knowledge. Psychology affects so much of our lives. If you want to be a coach, how are you going to motivate someone to be competitive? What do you do with a player who has anxiety that is negatively affecting their performance and they're choking all the time? What if you want to be a teacher, maybe a physical education teacher? How are kids impacted when they work in a group versus independently? What impact does psychology have on the dynamics of leadership? How are children developing their communication styles as well? This all has psychological implications. What about being an athletic trainer, physical therapist, or occupational therapist? How does motivation, anxiety, and goal setting affect an injured individual or someone who is going through a rehabilitation process? Again, we have psychology involved. There are many different backgrounds of the individuals in our class, but hopefully we can start to see how psychology can play an integral role in each part of our future professions. Additionally, there are some things that we're going to talk about this semester that may help you right now in your own personal life. Like other areas of psychology, sport and exercise psychology examine different aspects, sometimes called the ABCs, and D&Es of psychology. A is for the affect. This is a person's feelings. B is for behavior or one's actions. C is for cognition or cognitions, which is one's thoughts. D is dynamic and E is for ever-changing. D and E go together because most situations are fluid. They change over time and with different stimuli, so that's why D and E are sometimes included with the ABCs of psychology. There are two primary objectives for sport and exercise psychologists to evaluate: to understand the effects of psychological factors on physical and motor performance. We could do this by examining questions such as, how does anxiety affect a basketball player's accuracy in free throw shooting? Does a lack of self-confidence influence a child's ability to learn to swim? How does a coach's reinforcement or punishment influence a team's cohesion? Does imagery training facilitate recovery in injured athletes? How does a healthcare provider's communication style influence a patient's adherence to home rehabilitation exercise schedule and recovery? Number 2, to understand the effects of participation in physical activity on psychological development, health, and well-being. We could do this by examining other questions, such as, does running reduce anxiety and depression? Do young athletes learn to be overly aggressive from participation in youth sports? Does participation in daily physical education classes improve a child's self-esteem? Does participation in college athletics enhance personality development? And does physical therapy influence a wounded warrior's physical health and to help him or her create a more optimistic view of the future? Most sport and exercise psychologists function to complete 3 different professional roles: that of a researcher, teacher, and consultant. Research often focuses on the inquiry aimed at advancing the knowledge of the profession and sharing it through professional meetings or journal articles. Teaching may include functions such as instructing university courses in psychology or exercise and sports science. Consulting is probably the most public face of the profession. During consulting activities, individuals are working with athletes of all ages and abilities in the fitness industry, the military, and in sports medicine and physical therapy. Sports psychologists are licensed mental health professionals who function as trainers, consultants, or therapists that assist athletes from all different sports disciplines. They help athletes and active people to rehabilitate after injury, deal with anxiety, improve athletic performance, and achieve their ultimate goals. Sports psychology interventions are designed to assist athletes and other sport participants, such as coaches, administrators, and parents, from a wide array of settings, levels of competition, and ages, ranging from recreational youth participants to professional and Olympic athletes to masters level performers. The second part of this is to examine how science and professional practices affect sport and exercise psychology. There is a theory and a practice to sport and exercise psychology. We have to examine the science behind the discipline. To evaluate protocols and strategies to help individuals, we must rely on things that we have used before. There is a process or a method of learning about the world through systemic, controlled, empirical, and critical filtering of knowledge that is acquired through experiences. Some of us may have had the experience of having a moment in time where you did something that may have reminded you of your parent. How did you know how to react? Or did you know what to say in the moment that it happened? Did it catch you off guard? You probably didn't know what to say. You just reacted based on experiences, and it came out sounding like your parent because of experiences you have previously been through. Sometimes this is positive, other times this is negative, and sometimes it just downright freaks us out that we're turning into our parents. A theory is the ultimate goal of the science of sport and exercise psychology. A theory is a set of interrelated facts presenting a systematic view of some phenomena in order to describe, explain, and predict its future occurrences. For example, the social facilitation theory. Kurt Lewin in 1951 said, "There is nothing more practical than a good theory." The idea then is that we take the theory and then apply it to humans in a practical setting. This is not always a perfect science, which is why we are still practicing clinicians. If we had it all figured out, then we would not be practicing anymore, then would it? It's kind of like medicine. We still say that doctors are practicing medicine. They haven't perfected it. There is not always a textbook case, and not all interventions work on every individual. There is a human element, an individuality that must be considered as well. How well does research translate into practice? Is demonstrating effectiveness or efficacy enough? The development of an infectious intervention is clearly a priority among scientists interested in health promotion and the prevention of chronic disease. There are standard methods for determining if an intervention was or was not infectious. In recent years, there have been questions raised regarding the necessity of evaluating other factors associated with these interventions. Issues such as robustness, translatability, and public health impact have all been identified as critical, yet they have been given relatively little attention when compared to the reporting of the effect of a given intervention. In contrast to the availability of information regarding intervention efficacy, there is no widely available systematic framework to evaluate potential for translation and public health impact. To fill the research practice gap, Russ Glasgow and his associates designed an evaluation framework to expand assessment of interventions beyond efficacy to multiple criteria that may better identify the translatability and public health impact of health promotion interventions, and that balances the emphasis on internal and external validity. They propose that the translatability and public health impact of such initiatives is best evaluated by examining 5 of the following dimensions: reach into the target population, effectiveness or efficacy, adopt by target settings, institutions, and staff, implementation, is it consistent, and what is the cost of the delivery of the intervention? And M is for maintenance of the intervention. What are the effects on the individuals and settings over time? Hopefully this was a helpful start to this course and a real quick overview. We are going to delve into many different psychological theories this semester as we progress through this course. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you can find ways that you might be able to apply this information to your future career path and maybe even to you as a person right now.